And I wonder if you could elaborate a little more on what decolonizing mental health looks like from that kind of Indian cultural lens. I hear a
Mhm.
lot about the comparison of I hear a lot about this in sort of black psychology and indigenous psychology and sort of these Western versus whatever approaches. What does
Right.
that look like in an Indian context?
So a lot of my training, for example, was on Western populations, and a lot
Mm,
of the theories and frameworks that have been
hmm
developed for Western families, not necessarily collectivist South Asian families. So the idea of having independence and autonomy in a Western family may look very different in a
mm,
collectivist South Asian family. It doesn't mean that, parent and children are enmeshed necessarily when you think about what is the cultural norm, right? And so sometimes when people are talking about, oh, this is what the culture says, I pause and I'm like, well, is this the culture or is this the culture of your family? Because the
mm,
two are not always the same. And this is very true for immigrant families, especially parents who immigrated in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They're kind of stuck in that era of whatever they left behind. And they don't realize that things have moved forward back
mm,
home, wherever home is. And so they'll tell their children about cultural values, which may or may not be outdated. Um, so decolonizing mental health for me looks like, I've had, for example, I see a lot of couples in my practice. And sometimes we get to a place where things are good between the couple, but now we need to bring in one of the in-laws because it's a different relationship that's impacting. And I think a lot of, Western trained psychologists may kind of shy away from that. Like, oh, that needs to be, a different person or something. But
hmm
for me, it's really about I am treating the system and I'm treating relationships, right? Not individual clients. And so if
mm,
the relationship is my client, how can I help foster more closeness, connection through good communication? And where can we set those boundaries, right? Do they have to be so harsh or can there be softer boundaries or can you still do what you need to do without necessarily announcing it to everybody like here's my boundary
mm.
and it must be followed, right? So there are different ways of using tact and softer language um, to practice healthy boundaries or healthy communication.
Yeah.